You said you're going to sue the federal government. Exactly what is the legal basis for doing that? Doesn't the federal government have the right to set the standards?
Well, we've actually already sued on a previous action in the EPA and the administration trying to redetermine what they had already concluded beforehand several years ago. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that the EPA and NHTSA follow the law, their own laws that require them to try to move us forward in cleaning up the air rather than letting it get more polluted.
But they would say, certainly, sir, that they are moving it forward, that the standards that they're pursuing are tougher than the federal standards used to be. It's just there was this exception, rather unusual exception for the state of California, but it's time to get it all the same. Why isn't that consistent with the statute?
Well, you're conflating two different issues. California has been setting environmental standards on air for quite some time. In fact, before the Clean Air Act even got passed at the federal level, before the EPA started to regulate clean air. And so we've been doing this for a while. That's why for close to 50 years now, California has had the ability to set its own standards. That's different from what the administration decided last week to do, which was to undo the national standards. California right now is not asking to have separate standards from the rest of the nation. We're living with the national standards that were agreed on some 5 to 7 years ago. The administration is the one that's trying to break those standards and backslide from them. We're saying what they're trying to do not only is a violation of the law, but it's arbitrary and capricious.
Well, I guess I am a little confused because Parliament can't bind itself. I mean, the government can change its mind. Once it has a rule in effect, it's not cast in stone forever. So they're saying we still are tightening standards overall from what they had been. It's just it won't be as tight as it was under President Obama.
You're right, David, that the government can change its mind, but the government can't change its mind on a whim or cavalierly, because Americans rely on the law. So if you're driving 65 miles an hour on the freeway and today the government says, oh, we're going to change that to 45, and you've not had an opportunity to comment on that or to find out about it, that would be a violation of the law. It would be arbitrary and capricious. And what we're saying is that the EPA and NHTSA have acted arbitrarily and capriciously against the law. They are undoing standards that they themselves set. Not only that, but they're violating the requirements under the laws that apply to them that require them to continue to make advances to clean up our air.
Okay, so aside from the lawsuit, how open has the government been in negotiating, coming to the table and talking to you?
Not open at all. And that's why we're at this point where we have to likely sue the administration to try to stop them from violating the law. And so if they were willing to sit down and actually have serious conversation, perhaps there could be a chance to make some progress. But for the past year or so, it's been clear from their actions that they have not been interested in really speaking, because they keep taking actions that not only violate their own laws, but show that they're not interested in having serious conversation.
Given this, how long do you expect this litigation to continue for?
Well, that one is a tough one to answer. It depends on how obstructionist the federal government is in providing the data. Remember, none of these regulations is put in place without long periods of comment and with lots of facts and science put into the conversation and discussion. The administration really didn't do that. How much they're willing to reveal of what they use to guide them in trying to undo, to backslide, will determine how quickly any lawsuit moves forward.
So, Mr. Attorney General, let's just assume for the moment it's going to be years, because you and I have both been involved in complex litigation. It doesn't tend to get resolved right away. It doesn't go right to trial. What happens in that interim? If I'm General Motors, if I'm Ford, if I'm a major auto manufacturer, how do I know which rules to comply with?
Yeah, that's the automakers understood the value of having national standards, and that's why 5, 7 years ago, when those were agreed to, it was a great accomplishment with the automakers at the table reaching those national standards. Right now, it depends on what a court does with regard to the existing national standards. Would a court agree with the Trump administration that it's okay for them to break these standards without the right evidence? Or will they agree with the states that would sue to say that those standards should stay in place until we can reconcile the Trump's illegal and arbitrary and capricious actions? Regardless of that, then you get into the subject of California and the fact that we have had a waiver for years to move forward to keep our air as clean as possible, because as you probably know, California, it's crucial that we try to make improvements on air quality because it's what's required for us to keep our economy moving forward, to be the economic engine for the country, and now the 5th largest economy in the world.
So, Mr. Attorney General, this is just one of 30-plus lawsuits that you have filed against the federal government. How much can be done on the state level as opposed to the national level and with Congress being involved?
Well, what we're doing at the state level is we're trying to stop the Trump administration from proceeding illegally. No one in this country is above the law. And the Trump administration and President Trump has not learned that yet. And so each time we've had to go to court to try to make sure that they comply with the law if they want to change the law. And that's why we've had so much success, especially in the environmental space, against the Trump administration, because they continue to try to break the law as they try to change the law. How quickly things move, where we can have some reconciliation, it really is up to the Trump administration because they're the ones that are violating the law.
Some would say that you're basically leading the Democratic resistance against President Trump and his policies. You were a top Democrat in Congress before you took this position. Is an anti-Trump message enough for the Democrats come midterm? Does there need to be a broader message out there?
Well, I don't profess to have any type of such message. My message in my state, and as I move forward with what I do, is I say I am pro-jobs, I am pro the California economy, I am pro keeping us a family and being an open society. And as a result, California, as I said, has become the largest generator of jobs of any state in the nation. We are number one in agriculture, manufacturing, technology, clean energy, entertainment, hospitality. We graduate more people from college than any other state in the nation. Why would we want to change what's given us success and made us the economic engine for the country? That's what I am. I'm doing. I'm protecting everything that's made us the #1 state in the nation. And now, as I said, the 5th largest economy in the world. Someone wants to stop us from doing that. Someone wants us to backslide. They better give us a good reason because we've got to continue creating great jobs.
Mr. Attorney General, on a different lawsuit that you've joined with other states, let's talk about 3D gun printing. You've joined an action to try basically stop the dissemination of the plans to make these 3D printed guns. What's the basis for that? Because it's not illegal to have the plans. It would be illegal to make them, presumably.
Well, David, it's a little confusing because the federal government had sued the manufacturer of these 3D weapons, or at least the blueprints for these 3D weapons, and won in court twice against allowing these 3D blueprints to be placed on the internet. 2 victories in court that the federal government had. Yet the Trump administration decided to walk away from those victories in court that would prohibit the publishing of those 3D blueprints online, and decided to allow this company to do so. In the process, the federal government will also have to violate some of its own regulations to make it possible for this company to do so. Why? I don't get it. You're sabotaging local law enforcement throughout the country that are trying to seize these kinds of weapons and stop criminals from having weapons. Remember, these weapons are untraceable. You can't figure out where they're from because they don't have any markings, any serial numbers. These weapons can pass through metal detection devices because they're mostly made out of plastic. And so why would anyone want to allow these things to be manufactured? Donald Trump will have his fingerprints all over these weapons if they are produced.